class. I'm Dawn, and my pronouns are she and her. And today we're going to keep building on kind of a responsive upper body that can both express and be powerful. So kind of just working with how the hand responds, getting some co-contractions around the elbow, and then on up in through the torso. So our limbs become better at sharing load as it moves through our body, or that we release out through our hands. All with this kind of eye towards building what's needed to be able to do a push-up with more ease. So my kind of thought process for the classes this week was, yesterday was kind of breathing, some mobility, some strength. Today's a bit of a recovery day in terms of we won't be doing strength, but some mobility and just stretching. And then tomorrow we'll introduce some stuff with the bands, more strength, and then another recovery day. That way, if you wanted to take these 4 classes and just repeat them kind of, you know, every week, or on the weeks that you want to work upper body, for the next month or month and a half, you could totally do that, and you'd have a well-rounded kind of practice within these 4 classes. So I'm going to invite you to start by just coming onto your back, knees bent, feet on the floor, or the legs can be out straight. And continuing on with that idea from the other day about, through class, I'm going to kind of weave in some non-muscular cues or some imagery that kind of helps us release, lengthen, spread areas where we might typically tend to compress just because of gravity. And so you know your areas where you tend to feel compression, and maybe you don't describe it as compression, but you describe it as tightness or stiffness. So typically those are areas where we are more compressed, okay? So throughout class, you're going to have some imagery. Today specifically kind of working with the neck, the shoulder girdle, and the low back, because those are common areas where a lot of us tend to compress. And just take the next moment to kind of notice how you receive the support of the ground, and how the ground comes up to meet you. Notice the parts of you where there's a sense of relinquishing weight into the ground, and those areas where there's space. And there's nothing to fix or change, just simply practicing the art of observation and noticing. Okay, you will have noticed something, and it might not jump out at you right now, but when we come back and check, it will. So you're going to roll onto your side, and we're going to come onto our hands and knees. And this is a nice little eccentric for the forearms. My husband does a lot of work with his hands, and if you're a rock climber at all, the forearms get really kind of tight. Just being on our phones a lot, work in the kitchen, knife handling things, that work with our hands can create a lot of tension in the forearms. So this is a nice kind of prep to start to eccentrically load those wrist extensors, okay, and get some strength and length in them, which we need for a push-up. So you are in charge. You're in charge with how much weight you're going to put through your forearms here. So you want less weight, you're going to stay back here. The nose will be back behind the wrists. The further your nose goes out past your fingertips, the more load is going to go through those wrist extensors and the forearms. So you're going to decide where you need to be And I want you to kind of position yourself so that your middle finger is straight, more or less, or parallel with kind of the edges of the mat. And then you're going to press through the fingers and lift the heel of the hand, keeping the elbows straight. Then we're going to lower the heels of the hands, nice and slow. Spread the palm. Slow, 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 slow. Back down to the mat. Okay? Notice where your elbows are. See if to start, the pits of the elbows can be rotated and facing the same direction as the middle fingers. And then you're going to press into the ground, lift the heels of the hands. So like a calf raise for our hands. And then spread the palms and lower down nice and slow. Keeping those elbows straight. Okay, we're going to do that 4 more times. Lift up, lower down nice and slow. 3 more times. Okay, if you need to unweight to lift up and then shift weight in as you lower down, that's an option. So you could unweight, lift, bring the nose forward, lower down. We're usually stronger eccentrically. So you can unweight the wrists, press and lift, shift forward, spread the palm, lower down. So for some of us, if we're really tight through those forearms, that would have been pretty spicy, yeah? There would have been a lot of possible sensation. So now we're going to get into the other side of the forearms and of our hands. So that was creating some length and strength through this side. Now we're going to come over to this side. So we're going to make fists and bring the tops of our bases of our fingers together like so. Elbows are bent. And they're going to come to the floor. So our elbows are nice and broad. I feel like my hair is like getting all in the way, so you're not going to see anything. And we're down on the tops of our hands and our forearms here, the meaty part of the tops of our forearms. Elbows are on the floor. Okay. I want you to think about reaching the elbows wide, and then we're going to press into the back of the hands, press them through the floor, come up, try to keep pressing and get the elbows as straight as you can, and then slow, 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 reach the elbows wide, kiss them down, press through the floor, come up. Depending on your forearms, the elbows might initially stay quite bent, but as we go, we're going to do 3 more. Hopefully they start to be able to straighten a little bit more. We typically don't have weight on our wrists when they're in this flexed position. So again, this can be a lot of sensation because this just isn't a way that we load very often. Let's do 1 more. Press through the floor. Lift the chest. Good. Let that go. So we've got both sides of those arms. They're all warmed up. Okay? We're going to come up and do our first thingy at the wall. So pick a hand, okay? And that hand's going to come onto the wall, about shoulder height. And you'll be in a bit of a plank, just a 1-arm plank here, because if I were to come and, chop your hand off, I want enough weight through your hand that you would like fall towards the wall. So you've got some weight on that hand. However bent your elbow is to start, that's fine. It's going to stay that bent. What we're going to do is simply press off the wall and land on the wall. Okay, as we land on the wall, getting a bit of co-contraction around that elbow joint, which is why we don't want the elbow to bend a ton. We want to keep the arm pretty straight and just get springy through that hand. So we get a bit more springiness through the wrist, through the elbow, through the shoulder. Okay? Kind of spread the fingers. Let the force be dispersed through the whole palm of the hand. Almost like you're trying to close the hand to spring off. Drawing the fingers together to spring off. And then absorbing and spreading the fingers to bring the heel of the hand. So there's no loud thump. 2 and 1. Okay, just stand and notice this arm will likely feel quite alive and possibly longer than the other one. And then we're going to set up on that other side. Okay, again, feel like if I knock that hand off the wall, you'd fall into it. And the sense of trying to kind of close the fingers, and that's what presses you off the wall. And then the fingers spread and the palm comes onto the wall. Elbow stays the same amount of bend. See if you can do it with your eyes closed. You know, trust the feeling, sensing ability of your hand to find the wall. 4, 3, 2, and 1. Good. Just stand and notice having done that side. So we'll go through those again because once is never enough. Okay. So we're going to stay using the wall and move into some arm. Actually, no, we're going to come down to the floor for this. So we could do this at the wall, but we're going to do it on the floor today. So you're going to come onto the floor. And again, before we move into this movement, having done what we did with the forearms and then bringing some springiness back to the hand and the elbow, kind of notice what you notice in terms of how the ground receives your body. Specifically, maybe you feel more weight through the shoulder blades or more of your arm or wrist or back of the hand or palm on the floor. Just notice what you notice. And then we're going to take the arms out at about, set up this way, just a little lower than shoulder height. So if with the back of the hands on the floor, it's like your thumb, if from your thumb tip you drew a line, you would be shoulder height. So the pinky is lower than your shoulder. And just feel your arms on the ground. And then what we're going to do is, if you kind of imagine that you're holding a water bottle in each hand, those ones from Costco, those Kirkland plastic water bottles, so your fingers are loosely gripped around it. And we're going to start to, and the top of the water bottle is pointed in the direction of the top of your head. And you're slowly going to start to roll onto the top of the water bottle and keep going as if to bring the bottom of the water bottle to point in the direction that the top of the water bottle was a moment ago. And then you're going to roll and take the top of the water bottle and tip it down to the floor and the bottom of the water bottle towards the ceiling maybe. And you're just going to keep turning that water bottle, feeling the parts of you on the floor. Just go slow. Feel how the hand, the forearm, the upper arm, maybe the shoulder blades, how they're moving. Think about the arms like a big wingspan. On the weekend, I was reminded about the wingspan of turkey vultures as one flew overhead. and it cast a very big shadow. It was like a cloud almost. And think of your arms like that, this big, big wingspan, as you slowly just kind of turn the water bottles, those imaginary water bottles. And feel how the hand, the forearm, the upper arms move here. I'm going to do one more. Okay, and then let that go. And again, just take a second and notice what you notice on your back. And then we're going to come up to standing. Okay, we're going to get one of our blocks. Okay, and we're just balancing the block on the palm of our hand. So we don't want to be holding it. Hands are spread open and we're just balancing it on it. If you had like a paperweight, you could balance that on it. You could even balance the block. This way is going to be different, or this way and this way. Okay, so I'm going to go this way. Okay, so we're going to press that block. I'm just going to come down to kneeling so that you guys can see it. Up overhead. Okay, we're going to bend the elbow, lower it down, turn the fingers, take that block behind us. Let your body move and your spine move to accommodate that block. Okay, so this is an exercise called teacups. So if you can imagine a teacup or saucer and teacup resting on the palm of your hand, and we don't want to drop it. Let the rest of your body move to facilitate spinning that arm around. Yee. Okay, can you do a complete circle? So starting from up here, coming down, wrapping around, and all the way back up. And then going the other way. Try not to grab that block. So we're getting lots of coordination of the hand, the forearm. One more on this side. Eek. And our spine even, with it moving out of the way in order to facilitate that arm moving around. Okay, so we're going to switch to the other hand. And again, bring it down, spin it around, bring it back up. I kind of like to imagine that the arm is a snake. Okay, you're a snake charmer. So just take that arm that is a snake, eek, and weave it around. Getting sloppy. There we go. And then go back the other way. One more each direction. Okay, set that block down. Come up to standing. Okay, so in standing, we're going to play with something we did the other day, some arm swings. And the first thing I want you to do is just shift your weight forward and back. And only to the degree that the skin of the sole of the feet stays comfortably on the ground, but you can feel the bones in the foot kind of shift. And that, you know, the ball of the foot gets heavier, and then the heel gets heavier, but the front of the foot doesn't lift off. And if it does, that's okay, just don't go that far next time. So just kind of play with that forward and back a little bit, and then settle in, let the knees relax, let as much kind of weight come through the soles of your feet as you can. You're gonna release and lengthen that breastbone. And if there was a helium balloon attached to the back of the skull by a string, it's just kind of lifted up. So we've got weight through the legs, a lightness through the back of the skull and the back of the neck. Or you could think of that scruff of the neck image the other day of being kind of lifted by the scruff of your neck. Notice where your gaze goes as you do that. And then you're going to bring your right hand up and your left hand back, and you're just going to drop that right arm and let the arms just pendulum and swing forward and back. Imagine from the head right down to between your heels, there's a plumb bob right through the center of the body. And the arms and the rest of the body is just swinging or undulating around that plumb line. Okay, so let the feet be heavy. Notice what moves, where things feel compressed or stuck. See if you can, through kind of letting the arms be heavy, empty wool coat sleeves, and or gently pressing into the ground with the feet to help the swinging of the arms. If any of that can help to start to kind of lengthen or release or spread areas of the body that feel compressed. And let the hand not just swing forward and back, but it kind of swings across, sort of up in front of the opposite shoulder. Play with leaning forward so the heels get a little lighter on the floor. And the worst that would happen is if you lost balance, you would just take a step. Okay, so really let your weight come forward, and the worst that would happen is you would take a step. And I want you to notice how comfortable, uncomfortable, familiar, unfamiliar being this forward on your feet is for you. And then having the perturbation of the arms. Let the breastbone release and be long. Okay, and then let the arms slow down and just come to stillness. Okay, we're going to move through those movements again, just so we can feel them again and kind of get into some different bits. So starting back on the hands and knees, middle fingers pointing forward. And remember, you can de-weight or move the eyes back behind the wrists, lift the heels of the hands, shift the weight out over top, and slowly lower, okay? Or you can stay over top of the wrists and slowly lower. We're just gonna do about 6 of these. That's 3 for me. You go at your own speed and count. Slow, slow, slow. Think spreading the palm. Think spreading the yoga mat with your finger pads as you lower down. I'm going to do one more just for good measure. Okay. Oh. Sorry, something made a ding and I don't know what it was. Okay, so we're gonna go back now to those first knuckle push-ups. So remember, we bring the fists together and we're gonna come right down onto the floor, onto those forearms, and then press through the floor with the backs of the hands, trying to straighten the elbows as much as we can, knowing that everybody's structures are a little bit different. So if you can't get straight, that is a-okay, but try to get a little bit more straight, possibly with each time you press through the floor. Stretch the elbows wide, and then press the fists together, press them through the floor to come up. Let's do 2 more. Think about getting wide with the elbows as they lower down, and lower down nice and slow. Wide, 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 wide. Press the fists together, press them through the floor, and do 1 more for good measure. Good, let that go. Okay, coming up to the wall for that wall pong again. So picking an arm, and don't place it so high up the wall. We want it about shoulder height, so from the shoulder, I'd come to kind of the base of the middle finger knuckle is whereabouts you want to be. And again, have it so there's weight going through that hand. Okay, so it's catching you, and then it's like you're trying to press through the wall to come off, and then spread onto the wall through each finger pad and the heel of the hand to come back on. Okay. The elbow can bend a little bit, but don't try to dampen the force with a big, big elbow bend. See if you can go a little quicker. How quiet can you land? 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, let that go. So there should be lots of blood flow through that arm. We're going to come onto that other side. So you can set yourself up so you've got weight going through that arm. Okay, and as soon as you're ready, think about kind of trying to pull the paint off the wall, pushing through the wall with the fingers to come off, and then spreading to come back onto the wall. Four, 3, 2, and 1. Good job. Let that go and just stand. Notice what you notice. Take a second and just feel the energy or the vibration of your cells. Maybe there's a color. Okay, we're going to come down to the floor and move into those arm spirals. So we've got those imaginary Kirkland water bottles in our hands. And we're simply going to dump the water and keep going possibly, and then go the other way, dump the rest of the water out the other way. Maybe position your arms a little bit lower than where they started last time. Just explore kind of a different line of tensioning that tissue. Think of as the arms turn and dump the water bottle, release any tension from the spine out through the arms. poured out the water bottle into the ground. Think of letting the spine release and lengthen and spread. As you roll and spiral the arms. Let's do 2 more. Really see how much you can rotate those hands. Feel how it impacts the shoulder blades. And then relax the arms. Just notice what you notice here as you rest on the floor. Okay, we're going to come on to our side. You can either come up to kneeling or up to standing. And we're going to move through those teacups. I'm actually going to, I've got the block, but I've got, no, I've only got 5 pounds there. Oh, but I got little ones here. I'm going to try it actually with a book with a weight on it. Sometimes having just that little bit of feedback, okay, can help clarify the movement and where the hand is in space. So I've got like a little 3-pound weight on just a thin book. So if you wanted to take a second, or if you had a weight plate, that could work. I just don't want something kind of too big, but I'm going to give this a whirl. Okay. See how she goes. The weight slips off. See, I keep it on my hand. Oh, that works better than having it on the book. It just kind of slides on the book. But I will say, just having this little 3-pound weight kind of helps clarify the movement of my hand and my arm and my shoulder blade and my spine. Okay. Okay, let that go. Just stand for a second. Notice the right and the left side. This feels very light and very clear, like that my shoulder just isn't right here, but my shoulder is this whole kind of structure. Okay, so let's go through on the other side. So funny, this left arm, one direction is like really hard for me, for my brain to kind of organize it. Do you find that? I find that one side, it's like there's gaps for sure in the map. Which is okay. That's why we're doing this stuff. It's to clear out any smudges in that brain map. So we're getting lots of good thoracic movement. Okay, one more each direction. I think I just need to do more on my left. It's clear I'm like very confident on my right. But my left with that one is like, what? So interesting. Okay, we're gonna come back up. Last kind of round of those arm swings. So Again, kind of shift the weight as forward as you can get it, so the heels just feel a little bit light on the floor, and you feel really spread from the big toe mound to the pinky toe mound. Lift the right arm up in front, and you're just going to let it drop, and then let the arms kind of pendulum. And let yourself kind of drop in and sense the movement of your bones, the movement of the bones of your feet for the next few swings. Keep letting your weight be forward reaching, forward flowing. Sense the movement of the bones of your shins, the movement of your thigh bones. Can you feel the movement of the bones of the pelvis? How one hip bone moves forward and one moves back, and then they switch. Movement of the spine, rib cage, shoulder blades. One moves away from the spine, one moves towards the spine. Let your head float on top of this plumb bob down the center line of the body, from the back of the skull down between the heels. For 4, 3, those arms are empty, heavy wool coat sleeves. This takes me back to walking home in grade 3. I would always do that, put your arms inside the coat, and 1. Good. Let your weight shift back into your heels and the arms come to stillness. Okay, you probably felt as you were more reaching forward and swinging the arms, stuff at the back of the legs start to light up a little bit. Come down onto the ground and just onto your back for a second. Just feel how each of those movements kind of affected the structure, and how you rest on the ground and receive the ground. And release into the ground now compared to when we started, however many minutes ago. Okay, so all of that, if you wanted, you could do it one more time through, and that could be your practice. For today, we're going to flow through just a little, we're going to flow through for about 6 minutes, just a little flow, and then finish with Shavasana. So we're going to use our 2 blocks, okay? And our 2 blocks are going to come onto the front of our mat. And I want you to set up to have them back wherever they need to be on the mat, that hands are on them, and we're in hands and knees, and then we're going to use both hands to press. We're going to press both hands through the blocks in the floor to send us into a downward dog leg shape. And then we're going to let the knees be heavy and drop to the floor. And then we're going to use both arms to press through the blocks and floor to send us back towards our heels. Okay, and then let the knees be heavy and drop down. So I'm going to move a little bit further back so that when I push through the blocks and floor, my heels find the wall. Okay, so position yourself with your blocks so that this next time you press with the arms through and down, that your heels find the floor. And just keep reaching and pressing through the blocks and floor with the arms. And let the heels press into the wall. Don't worry if the legs aren't straight. Okay, just take a couple of breaths here. Now we're going to move forward into a bit of a plank, but because of where the blocks are, we're going to come out so our nose is past our wrists. We can stay elevated here, or you can come down onto the knees, And then we're gonna lower down nice and slow, like tricep push up. Lower, 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 and then lower the belly to the floor. Tops of the feet to the floor, hands just on the blocks. But we're definitely, the blocks are kind of just below the shoulders, okay? So the elbows are reaching back. I want you to think about reaching the elbows back and towards the floor, and that's what lifts you up off the ground. And then you're gonna lower back down. Again, imagine being lifted up by the scruff of the neck, and that there's a heaviness through the elbows. The elbows are reaching towards the floor to peel you up into a baby cobra. Go ahead, think scruff of the neck. You're being lifted by the scruff of the neck. Elbows reaching to the floor, hands pressing through the blocks. Lower back down. We're going to press up onto our hands and knees. And press back, downward dog. Use the arms to send you back. Look forward between your hands, and we're going to step one foot so the toes are in line with the block. We're going to come up on the opposite block a little bit higher. Drop that long leg, that knee to the ground, and bring the heel towards the bum. Reach back. You might touch the heel, you might not, feeling some calf and hamstring stuff here. You could also use your block to bridge that gap, okay? Push heel into block and hand into the heel. So you feel butt, hamstring, calf stuff here. Three, two, and one. You're gonna bring that block back to the floor, tuck those toes under, come back up into that high lunge. We're gonna spin and bring that heel to the floor. Extended side angle, just turn the body towards the long end of the mat, reaching that arm overhead. Okay, I can use the wall. I'm gonna press into it the outside of that back leg. And then we're gonna lift the torso up onto the legs. That hand might find the wall as well, into warrior two. And then we're simply gonna straighten that front leg, bringing us into a variation of triangle. So the hand might come to the shin, maybe you reach a block and set it up on a block. Maybe it rests on the thigh. Arms gonna windmill over top. We're gonna bend the knee, spin that back heel, find ourselves in lunge. Bring both blocks down, step that leg back, press through the blocks, downward dog. We're gonna step forward, bringing the opposite toes towards that brick, taking the other brick up on its side, dropping that knee, lifting that heel with the block or not, reaching around behind, a little bit of thoracic rotation, and activating that hamstring. Push block into heel, heel into block. One side might be more prone to cramp than the other. That's okay. Just need to do a bit more on the side that wants to cramp. Okay, let that go, toe comes down. We're gonna come back to that high lunge. We're gonna spin that long leg, bring the sole of the foot to the floor, bring us up into extended side angle, reaching that arm overhead. Reach to the wall with the outside edge of that back leg. Spinning the arms up, strong through the legs. Reaching into the wall with that back arm, warrior two. We're going to straighten the knee of that front leg, sending us into triangle. Taking that hand to the thigh, to the knee, to the shin. Windmilling over top, spinning back into high lunge, coming onto both blocks, stepping that leg back, reaching through the blocks with the hands, sending the hips back, downward dog. Bend the knees, sit the hips back, arms reach out long, forehead may or may not find the floor. Press the palms into the blocks. Bend the elbows, hands come under the shoulders. Let the hands press you back towards your heels and roll up one vertebra at a time. Inhale those arms up. Might interlace the fingers behind the head. Open up the elbows, lift the searchlight of that breastbone. Exhale, chin to the chest, elbows forward. Roll down to the floor. Just let the head hang for a second. You might shift the weight side to side. Shift the hips forward so the crown of the head comes to the floor. Shift the hips back. Shift the hips forward. Find some flexion through that spine. Shift the hips back. One more time, rolling the head on the floor. Shift the hips forward. Round that spine. And then shift the hips back towards the heels, lengthening out that spine. Walk the hands towards the knees. Bring yourself up. We're going to make our way onto our back. Actually, let's see, time for the twist. Yeah, we're going to make our way onto our backs. So the other day we finished with constructive rest or some internal rotation of those thighs. We're going to use our blocks, and if you find the block edges are kind of sharp, you could use your yoga mat to put over them to kind of disperse their contact with the tissues. But we're going to bring the soles of the feet, just kind of toe heel them together. And then I don't want us to go to the point that we feel a big stretch. We kind of just turn the blocks. And so the thigh and the shin bone is resting on the block. So I'm not feeling any stretch through the inner thigh. So you might find that you prop up either the thigh or the shin on the higher angle of the block, okay, or one of the lower ones. And for some, the thigh is going to feel like the more important bone to support, and for others, it's going to feel like the shin is. So just trust what you're feeling and adjust the prop so that the legs feel completely supported and that they can just release and spread outward onto those blocks. You might press into the blocks a little bit and lengthen the low back, or reach the hands towards the ceiling and just get the shoulder blades out of the way, kind of getting as much contact with the back stuff and the floor as you can here. It's like we're just sort of uncreasing any of the creases at the back of the body. then leaving the legs where they are, and they're in some external rotation. So let's take the hands to the hip, the elbows. It might be your hip, it might be your ribs. Okay, but where the elbows can rest on the floor. So for each of us, that might be a different kind of position, where your elbows can rest on the floor and then the hands on the body, palms down. So this is encouraging some internal rotation at the shoulder joint, where we've got the hips in some external rotation. And you might notice that by doing that, there's a sense of more of the back body stuff. Releasing, lengthening, spreading into the support of the ground. You might even feel, as you feel that back body lengthening and spreading, you might feel a smile kind of spreading across your face. And you might notice that as you smile, there's more of a spreading and lengthening of the back body stuff that happens as well. It's like this reciprocal feed forward response. Your next inhalation, you're going to float the knees towards one another. Bring the soles of the feet to the floor and stretch out one leg and then the other. Just let your attention wander freely. If it gets, the mind gets hooked and kind of follows a stream of thought, just kindly and gently bring it back to the wide open space of your attention. Your next exhale, start to bring movement back to the body. Wiggling of the fingers, the toes. make our way from our backs onto our side. And use the arm and the hand to press yourself up from your side onto your bottom. Just find your pelvis, your spine. As you inhale, just kind of feel the length of the spine, the neck, all the way up the crown of the head, bringing the palms together in Anjali Mudra, thumbs just before heart center. And let our gaze be on our fingertips, and we're going to breathe in with ease and out with peace. Shanti Shanti, peace.